This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to the Junkyard Pod. I'm Tony Pesta, joined by Jackson Flickinger, and man, did we get some great news in the last 24 hours. Not only did I win my bowling challenge with the Playback chat, not only did I win with bumpers, you know, who can say, but the Cleveland Cavaliers at the same time earned 3 All-Stars to represent them in the NBA All-Star game this year. Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and of course Donovan Mitchell, who was already announced as a starter, will be in San Francisco next month.
With Kenny
but
Atkinson.
above all else, oh yeah, and Kenny Atkinson too. So technically we have 4 guys over there representing us.
And the coaching staff. So really, like 30 guys over
Plenty
there.
of guys. Yeah, shout out to the coaching staff. I almost completely forgot them, but they've done a great job. They certainly deserve to be there. But the biggest news from yesterday, I guess technically this morning, above all else, perhaps the biggest news of the season, the Junkyard Pod, aka the Junkyard Dog, has never been more back. Jackson, did you see the Cavaliers have signed Reggie, a Labrador puppy? Listen, this is a good boy. He's got a great nose for rebounding. I've heard he's a fantastic teammate, very coachable. Someone on Twitter asked me, can he shoot the 3 ball? I said no, but he can fetch it. He can definitely fetch it. So listen, Kobe Altman, he's getting active ahead of the deadline. People wanted us to make a move, and I'm personally thrilled that the Junkyard Dog branding can last a little bit longer. But we'll get into the actual episode now.
Can he shoot a 3, though?
Time crunch. He can't shoot threes. He's not a 3-and-D player
just
yet, but he's young. He's still a puppy. You know, he's still got the baby harness on. He's got time to develop into a real threat, okay? And he's very, like I said, he's very coachable. He's going to listen to whatever the staff tells him to do. Well, you know what? Tristan ended up winning a championship, so it could still pay off. And the most important thing is we get to be the Junkyard Pod a little longer because, you know, it could have been forgotten very easily once JB left. But now we're back. Reggie, we're counting on you to hold it down long term.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Reggie, for helping us out with the branding.
Yeah, it's really a load off my shoulders, but we got to get to the actual episode because I know we're on a time crunch. We're trying to do these quick episodes now. So for today, we're going to recap the Cavs back-to-back against Miami and Atlanta. And then in the second half, we're going to talk about the All-Star selection. So before we do that quickly, if you aren't following us on all of our social media platforms, then please take a moment to do that either now or at the end of the episode. All the links are in the description, and we'd really appreciate it. All right, Jackson, you actually watched the game last night. I got to see the YouTube highlights and some tweets, so I'm overqualified to talk about it, but I'd like you to start off by giving us a recap.
The Hawks are who we thought they were. They were banged up, but the Cavs just kind of handled their business. I thought it was a really good game from Darius Garland. You like to see as soon as an all-star, you know, somebody becomes an all-star, you'd like to see them play like that. And it was cool to see him play like an all-star in front of a national TV audience. He was phenomenal. He was 10 times better than Trae Young. So any conversation that anybody could have had about Trae being snubbed, or as Trae Young has said, being trade, kind of should go away, at least from the Darius Garland. No, if you wanted to pick at Tyler Herro, I'm open to hear that discussion. Or Damian Lillard.
He could go.
I'm honestly okay with with him taking both of their spots, but not Darius Garland. Darius Garland was, in my opinion, the clear third Eastern Conference All-Star guard behind Brunson and Mitchell. And honestly, you can kind of argue that he may have deserved it over Mitchell, but so he was phenomenal. Last night, you got a strong Evan Mobley performance, even though not really a great box score game with only 16 points. But the Cavs, they were running all over them. Ty Jerome, really good game from Ty. I think this game from Ty was actually more encouraging than I felt that some of his previous other games were, just because a lot of his games, what was the game earlier? The Rockets game where he had, was it 33 points?
Oh, that was the
first loss. The Philly game, sorry. Yeah, the Philly game.
Yeah, he had like 8 threes, 8 for 8.
Right. So it's like, well, yeah, he's not shooting 8 for 8. He did most of his work Last night in the paint, getting to the paint, knifing to the basket, I thought that was, the Hawks have a pretty suspect interior defense. So, I do want to point that out. But it was encouraging that I think that he's going to have to be able to do that in order to, if he's going to be a long-term rotation piece. And I thought it was really interesting after the game. Kenny's very honest. Kenny Atkinson, head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, he said afterward that going into the season, he wasn't planning on Ty being a rotation player, even with the 10-man rotation. And he said that, he's made me change, how I view this rotation when we're fully healthy, which is pretty clear because he's been absolutely phenomenal for most of the season. There was that brief, 2-week lull where he kind of lost it a little bit, but he seemed to regain it. And I think this was a really positive game, a more positive game than even that Philly game, because you were able to see him affect the game in more ways than just shooting wide open threes where he gets 10 minutes to, load it up. So overall, it's a good game. Do want to give a shout out to Jalen Tyson. I thought he played really well. Yes. 15 points, which, I think on efficient shooting, it was 6 and 9 shooting. Don't fact check me because I don't have the box score in front of me. Okay, there we go. Down. So he had a good game. Oh, if you want to come in with anything, I've just been going through my notes basically because it's
you're good.
You didn't watch the game, so I figured I would touch on everything. He played good. I remain impressed with his off-ball movement. We pointed it out on the Playback stream when we watched the Heat game where he got his first start. I thought he did a really good job of moving off ball and even though he only had 4 points that game, felt like he was contributing to the offense in a way that don't want to finger point it at anybody. Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade, when they are just when they are sometimes just spacing the floor, they're just doing a lot of cardio.
They're trying to hide.
So even though Dean Wade has more gravity, he does help out the offense. It is still kind of you're just trying to play a game of how far can I get my defender to can you leave me or come to me and stuff like that.
So get out of the way, basically.
Right. So Jalen Tyson, I felt he did a really good job of even though he wasn't a big contributor in the Miami game, he did a good job of moving off ball. There was this one play that we brought up on the stream where he cuts and then he draws the defense kind of with him during the cut, and then Strus just cut backdoor right behind him and it was wide open. So things like that aren't going to show up on the box score, but I feel Tyson does a really good job at that. I do think the defense is something to keep an eye on. His off-ball instincts, as good as they were on offense, I think they're kind of they're kind of suspect on defense. There was one play, Zachary Risachet was cooking last night. Yeah, he was cooking. And Tyson was guarding him, and Tyson just slowly starts drifting away and drifting away and drifting away. And he was just standing wide open in the corner, super simple pass from the top of the arc to the corner. Risachet just hits another three because he was on fire. And it's Tyson, you're not helping in that position. You're guarding the player who is, the biggest problem right now. And you just kind of forget that he exists. You can't have that happen.
Yeah.
So
Still, very young player, to be fair. He's an older rookie, but those are things that you'd expect from a first-year player playing his first few minutes. But it's fair to point out.
And he does that foul on who was the shooter he fouled by grabbing their shorts in the Heat game.
Was it Herro? I think it was
Herro. So, foul Herro. Kenny talked about
rookie mistakes.
Kenny talked about after the game, playing too much with his hands on defense. And I think that's something you see on ball. He's very much thinks he's still playing Pac-12 basketball.
And checking people.
RIP. So yeah, those are things where it's he makes an immediate impact on offense, and he does it without taking anything off the table, and he's a good rebounder. But until the defense gets to where it needs to be, he's not if the Cavs were in a playoff series starting tomorrow, you're not penciling Tyson in, provided everyone's healthy.
Yeah, and I have some notes on Tyson because I did get to watch the Miami game, and I saw some highlights of the Hawks game. I'm not too out of the loop, but I want to mention Ty Jerome because you said Kenny Atkinson, Ty Jerome kind of changed the way he views the rotation. Ty Jerome has changed the way I view basketball. This man is like a hybrid of Steph Curry and Matthew Dellavedova. He's such a strange player, but he just keeps on doing Ty Jerome things. Like, we thought maybe in November that this was just a case of a guy getting way over his head and he would come back down to earth.
Hold on. I wanted to push back on like the Steph Curry Delly
He's
thing.
Like
I was like
70% Delly, 30% Steph.
I was like, well, Delly has a really slow shot, and he would only get it off when people give him 10 minutes. Like Steph Curry has like the quickest shot ever. And I was like, well, actually, when he gets it off and he's like not 40 feet away, it's going in. So like it may be 80-20.
80 Delly. Okay, yeah.
But
because he's like so awkward, but he's so efficient. And he's really physical like Delly, but he's got the finesse of Steph Curry. And obviously I'm being egregious. I'm just kind of joking.
He may have he has the defensive prowess of Steph.
Well, except for when he's like picking up a random pickpocket where he's just bullying someone. We haven't seen that as often recently, but beginning of the year, he was just like literally taking people's lunch money. It was crazy. Nobody expected Ty Jerome to come out and play like this. So we got to give him credit. And I want to just look at the box scores here because he just keeps on, like I said, we thought maybe he was in over his head and he did kind of come back down to earth for a while, but now we're, more than halfway through the season and he's consistently had games like this where, just looking at the recent games, January 22nd against the Rockets, 18 points, next game against Philly, 33 points on 11 of 14 shooting, 8 for 8 from 3. I want to mention during this whole time, no Karis LeVert. So Jerome has to step up. Second game against the Rockets, he only had 6 points, shot very poorly. Against the Pistons, 15 points, 7-11 shooting. Against Miami, 20 points, 9 of 18 shooting. He was really getting shots up in that game. This most recent game, 20 points on 9 of 11 shooting in just 26 minutes. You basically put him out there. Oh, and by the way, in those games, 6 assists, 7 assists, 3 assists, 3 assists, 3 assists. Like, he's kind of doing everything. You just put him out there, and he puts points on the board somehow. So shout out to Ty Jerome. He's been a huge help for this bench, especially with the injuries. He had, the big game against Miami without Darius Garland. Like I said, he's been playing without Karis LeVert on the bench. So they've really, really needed this. And I think it's awesome to see him playing like this. My takes from the Atlanta game, from the little bit that I saw, you mentioned Darius Garland coming out after the All-Star selection on national TV. It kind of reminded me of the first year with Mitchell when Garland didn't make the All-Star team and they played Memphis on national TV right after. And Garland just torched Ja Morant. I forget what he finished with, but I know he played like an incredible game. That's what it felt like against Trae Young. The Cavs as a team just kind of pounced on Atlanta, and really it felt good because, the Hawks beat us twice already this season somehow. And a lot of people put, probably too much stock into this game. I saw some people saying like they absolutely need to win this game or I can't trust them anymore. It's like, let's not get carried away. But it does feel nice to get your payback the way they did. Garland was dominant. Mitchell was dominant in like the role that we've seen him accept throughout times this season where he's kind of just, he's not doing the one-man army thing, but whenever it's his turn, he just dominates that. Mobley was dominant in a way that doesn't show up in the box score. I saw the poster dunk that he had. He had a really nice Euro step layup with the left hand. Max Strus hit 3 3-pointers, which is huge. I think he's starting to find his rhythm right now. I already mentioned Ty Jerome. And then Jalen Tyson, I'll talk about him a bit because, he had the 15 points on 6 of 9 shooting in just 17 minutes. I've been saying this is the first time really all season, about the last 2.5 weeks. This is the first time Jalen Tyson's getting like legit rotational minutes that aren't garbage time. He's just actually out there. And so some of the rookie nerves, they're starting to come off. And we're getting to the point now where we are at the point now where we can start to judge what we're seeing. Because the first couple games, you're playing in a 30-point blowout or you're playing your first couple minutes in the NBA, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Now we're starting to get a sense of who he is as a player. And the things that stand out to me, it's the intangibles, like you said, moving without the ball on offense, just understanding the game. Defense, he's got some ways to go off ball, but on ball, he does a pretty good job. He's very physical. He's very active. He fights over screens, maybe a little too handsy, like you said, but the intangibles, just having that motor, going after rebounds. He's always down there trying to grab it, whether it's an offensive board or a defensive board. He's got all those intangibles that I'm looking for. And when he's scoring like he did against Atlanta, that's where you start to see the full vision of this is a legitimate rotational player. Maybe not this year, but if he puts it all together, he's got something So he's a player to keep an eye on, and I've been encouraged by the way he's played because even when he isn't scoring, you kind of mentioned it, he's doing a good job of just breaking even. Like I haven't really seen, maybe I'm forgetting, but I can't remember Tyson just having like a horrible game where I'm like, oh, you have to yank him. Normally it's just, okay, he's not really doing anything. Probably time to take him out the game, but he hasn't been a disaster. And that sounds like the bar's pretty low, but for a rookie,
I think there was
there a game?
I think there
was one game
I
where
remember in like grades, we gave him a really bad grade one time. But yeah, that was just once.
Yeah, it's not, for a rookie playing his first minutes on the best team in the NBA, the fact that he's finding ways to break even without scoring, that's encouraging to me.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really nice is there's an acceptance of his role that's very apparent because he's somebody who in college had the ball in his hands a lot, somebody who even going back to Summer League, we talked about when he played with like Craig Porter Jr., it was like he didn't know where to fit in when Craig had the ball. Now you're seeing him fit in really well when he doesn't have the ball. And that's what's needed when you're going to play on a team or grow into a role on a team with, 3 all-star guards, counting Ty Jerome as one of those all-star guards, obviously.
A snub. Absolute snub. So I guess the last notes they have on these two games, we'll talk about the Miami game just a little bit. I thought Mitchell.
The Heat are bad. Two bad teams. Want to get that out here. Yeah.
2 bad teams that for whatever reason have our number. So it was nice, even though they are bad teams, it's nice to beat Miami by a lot in Miami and to get back against Atlanta.
I push back against like them having our numbers. It's more like the Cavs had their own numbers. Like the one game,
I mean, that's fair.
It was the second night of a back-to-back when they lost to Miami the first time in Miami. And it was Evan Mobley scored 41 points. Everyone was hyped. And then he gets hurt like in the beginning of the Heat game. And then it's like the wheels just kind of fell off from there. And then like those Hawks games, there's some terrible defense both times. So
worth pointing out.
Yeah.
But still, it still feels good to get revenge on the very few teams have beat us this year. So getting revenge on them felt good. On the Mitchell game against Miami, we talked a lot about it on our Playback stream. You should be following Fear the Sword on Playback so you get a billion Cavs takes because we yap about them for like 2.5 hours. But to keep it short for this, it was kind of a throwback to like the one-man army Donovan Mitchell games that we've seen in years past where no Darius Garland, Ty Jerome, but still no Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell kind of just completely dominating and orchestrating the offense entirely through him. And he was just red hot all night. It was fantastic. But on top of that, Evan Mobley, I mentioned this a lot. How sweet is it that in a game where we knew we needed Evan Mobley to step up and score a little bit, he puts up 22 points in 31 minutes and he made it look easy. His size against Bam Adebayo, it's one of the first times where like Mobley was winning that matchup. Like he was actually just, I won't say he was too strong for Bam, but he was too big. Like Bam just couldn't bother him. He couldn't contest his shots, the floaters, the layups. Mobley was doing anything he could or anything he wanted, to score against Bam. And so the fact that you could trust him to do that was awesome. Mitchell, Mobley, it's probably not a surprise that these two guys are all-stars, right?
Yeah. Worth pointing out that it was important to have those games because Garland was resting. So in case people forgot that Garland was out that first Miami game. One of the things that I really liked about, you brought up everything that was good about Mitchell in the Heat game. But one of the things that I liked in the Hawks game is even though he didn't have to carry that scoring burden the same way, he came up with that same energy from the jump. So even I feel like the Cavs really follow Mitchell's energy because it seems like, of their 4 best players, like Mitchell's the one who can kind of spur them on with his energy on like both sides of the ball in the way that Garland and Mobley and even Allen can't really do it the same way. So I thought he came out with a really good energy in that game against the Hawks, and that doesn't manifest itself. That doesn't need to manifest itself in like taking a million shots where like in the past we've seen him try to do that where he just takes a million shots at the start of a game. But like I felt that just playing with energy and force, even if you're not scoring a bunch, is really important. Because in that first quarter against the Hawks, Garland had 10 points, Mitchell only had 6. But it was like Mitchell came out with that energy that kind of just allowed everybody else to kind of like find their place. And that's something that I think is really underrated that he does, and it's probably because it's hard to kind of talk about, as anyone who's listening can attest to right now.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to transition and talk about our 3 All-Stars, and I'll start by building off what you just said with Mitchell. He just has these stretches, whether it's scoring 8 points in like 2 minutes or just, like you said, the energy, getting downhill, breaking down the defense, kicking it out, the ball's moving, everyone's getting involved. Like, he has an ability to raise this team's floor way up at any point in the game and get everyone involved. And even defensively, there was one against Miami where he dove for the ball and got a steal. I think the Cavs called timeout right after, and like everyone's excited now because Donovan Mitchell, never really known for his defense, but he can make defensive plays, and like he just sparks this team maybe more than anyone else. Darius can have his moments too. Like, I don't want to take anything away from him. It's not meant to take anything. It's like I said on Twitter that Donovan Mitchell's still the best player on the Cavs. Some people interpreted that as an attack on Darius or Mobley. It's really not. It's just he is a legit superstar. Like, Mitchell is so talented.
Some people say he's 80% Devin Booker and 20% Delly. That's what some people say.
I can't sign off on that one, but I respect it.
Sorry.
I respect Delly's DNA is just all over this team, so I can't complain. But I think we all know Donovan Mitchell. We've seen him the last 3 years. We know he's an all-star. I want to talk about Mobley and Garland really quickly. We've talked plenty about them as well. You already know, but I want to think back to last season where we were, all the questions that we had, all the doubt that Mobley, he's stagnating. Maybe we're not going to get the Evan Mobley that we thought we drafted. Maybe he's never going to get there. Maybe Darius Garland, that all-star season in 2021, it was a fluke. And now we're seeing his flaws, the decision-making, the lack of confidence, his offensive limitations. Maybe it's too much. Maybe he's not going to be that type of player. Mobley, his confidence, his lack of strength, his ability to score the ball or get to the rim last year, to punish mismatches. We had all these concerns, and it's like they have literally answered every single question just about. I think we've seen everything we could have dreamed of from these 3. Mobley still has, like, he's just scratching the surface still, but he's putting it together in a way that's undeniable. Garland has completely bounced back from all of last season. He has put so many of his flaws in the rearview mirror. He's not a perfect player by any means, but he's legitimately one of the most efficient floor generals in the NBA. He's done such a fantastic job. And the Cavs, as a result, are the first team to have 3 All-Stars in the NBA since the Warriors in 2022. Andrew Wiggins, I defended at the time, so a little fluky, but it is what it is. Still, Jackson, I think you earned it. You can join me in this victory lap right now. All the haters and losers, we told you, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, they were not last year, people got carried away. And now we're back. We are so back. And I think you can join me in the victory lap.
Maybe. I was quite down on Garland last year.
Well, yeah, you have to stay on the sidelines for the Garland lap.
I feel like I was not necessarily down. Like, just saying that. Like,
he was bad.
You gotta, and when you're talking about the games, you gotta say, well, he's not finishing inside and he's not shooting threes. So,
yeah,
what are we doing?
There's a difference between that and like saying that Darius Garland needs to be traded for Devin Vassell.
We were questioning whether he fit with Donovan Mitchell, and I think that's kind of what this season was about. And I remember on Kenny Atkinson's first press conference, somebody said, "How do you get Donovan and Darius on the same page?" And he was like, "Well, that's what I'm paid to do." And he's earning his money.
I think he's earned it.
We are running out of time, but yes or no answer here because we don't have time for more. Jarrett Allen, did he get snubbed?
No, I don't think so. I don't really think anyone got snubbed except for in the Western Conference, which is very, very quickly. Who?
Trae Young.
Oh no, he's fine. Trae didn't get snubbed. He had an argument over Damian Lillard. I would say would be the one
Tyler
person.
Herro.
I thought Tyler Herro deserved it.
No,
I like Tyler Herro making it. He's been so good, so efficient. His team's better than the Hawks right now. So I probably would. I probably would give Herro the edge, but
I'm guessing you have a Tyler Herro poster here, whatever the wall is right there. That's what I'm guessing. But that's fine.
Back in December when people first started pushing the Herro agenda, I was like, no way, I don't think he deserves it. Since then, I've seen the light.
Trading Mitchell for a Herro. You were like, oh, that's good. Anyways,
never in a million years.
Your snub.
The worst snub, I think, to me. Well, not necessarily the worst. Yeah, I'll say this is the worst snub. The worst player who I think made the All-Star team hate to say it as someone who has defended this player for a long time. James Harden shouldn't have been an all-star this year. He's literally, you can't be an all-star shooting 39% from the floor. The Clippers' entire identity is on defense. He brings nothing on that end of the floor. He's still their best player.
That only works because of the offense. I'm
like their third most important player right now.
Completely blindsided.
Zubac and Norman Powell are playing better than him. He's still the best player, and that's why he made it. Listen, here's the snub, though. Kyrie Irving should have made it over James Harden. I don't think there's any debate in my mind, at least. He's playing so efficient. He's carrying this Mavericks team to the best of his ability without Luka. James Harden, like, yeah, sure, but like he's been so inefficient this year. The reason the Clippers are winning games is because of their defense. I don't think he should have made it, but
get all the old guys out of here. Get Steph out. Get KD out. LeBron can
there's a lot of old guys in the Western Conference that are still holding on there. Yeah. Did you have any gripes with the All-Star stuff before we go? LaMelo Ball snubbed?
I voiced them
all. I don't think so. You voiced them all?
Yes.
I was pretty happy overall. Yeah, we'll wrap up. But overall, I thought they did a great job with the All-Star selections. We'll see if any injury reserves happen. Maybe Jarrett Allen can still get in there. I'm not really banking on it, but he's had a great year. Don't want to take anything away from him. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Junkyard Pod. Like I said at the top, if you aren't already following us, then please hit the links in the description and follow us on all the social media platforms that we're on. Make sure you drop a like, leave a comment. Let me know if you thought there were any big all-star snubs. And with all that being said, Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs. Brian, I'm so glad James Harden made the all-star team. We are so happy.